The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
And welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. I'm smiling so hard because it's Wednesday. We're so excited to be here. We have a fascinating show for you. We're going to start with Ask Dr. Doreen. It's your opportunity to ask questions of Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. And then in the second hour, Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson will be joining me for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And our very special guest via Skype today is Kerry Magro, who is the author of this new book, Defining Autism from the Heart. The subtitle, though, is Going from Being Nonverbal to Being a National Speaker. This young man is amazing. We've had him on the show before, but this is his new book. He's going to be talking about that with us in the second hour. You're not going to want to miss that. We also have a little surprise for you in that second hour. Nancy and I have a little surprise for you that we hope you'll appreciate and enjoy. So don't miss that. But we're going to start with Ask Dr. Doreen, and I want to remind all of you that this whole show is meant to be interactive. We appreciate comments and questions, especially in this hour. This is your opportunity to ask questions of a true visionary in the field of autism. Emily is showing you some of the different ways that you can get a hold of us here. I'm going to remind you that if you go to www.autism-live.com, that's one of the ways to watch us live, and there's a special perk there. When you go there, you have a white box that you can put your cursor there, type whatever you want into that space, hit enter, and it shows up here. You guys have been writing in through the night. We've got a bunch of questions, but we always have room for more. We keep them in the queue, and we get to them eventually. And that's free. You don't have to log in. There is no credit card information. The good news is you have complete anonymity. The somewhat not so good news is that we have no way of getting back to you unless you tell us a way to get back to you. So if you want us to get back to you with something, send that to us and I can edit that out so that we can make sure that no one else gets that information but us. Having said all of that, it's my great pleasure to introduce Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism, and now you get to ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen, and we want to start by welcoming you for being here this morning, Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Good morning.
Good morning. Such a thrill to have you here today.
Thank you. Always a lovely pleasure.
Well, and you can be writing in your questions right now of Dr. Doreen. We want to remind you at the start of the show, as always, no one on this show gives child-specific advice. That includes Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, despite the fact that she is an expert in the field of autism, and as I always say, a visionary in the field of autism, and has been working with individuals on the spectrum for more years than I want to say, because that will give things away that no one else would ever know. They would think that you started doing therapy when you were 2, if I told them how long you've been doing therapy. But there is no way that even a professional of her caliber can know enough information from what you guys write in this feature. It would be a disservice to our kids, but she can give you wonderful information that can help lead you to having more questions or to getting some support.
Exactly. Yeah, we're just going to be giving answers in general terms In some cases where we feel we can help, or I feel I can help in some way, we might ask you for more information.
Absolutely.
Even. So,
and you guys have written in that it is so helpful to hear you talk about things. We all learn things. I learn things every week. So thrilled that we can do that. I want to start with a question that came in on Facebook. Somebody wants to know, how do I help my son at school with depression due to lack of friends who will even talk to him? He is in middle school.
Oh, middle school is such a tough time for our kids to begin with. Well, there's a shortcut, and then there's the sort of longer actual fix. This is kind of a problem that a lot of our kids have, obviously, because they're somewhat delayed or have problems with social skills. And really, the right way to deal with it, which might take a year, it might take longer than a year, is to teach your child the things they need to know in order to be effective and successful socially. And the best way I've been able to do that, and have sort of provided information to families to be able to do that, or teachers, is through Skills, our online program. And specifically on Skills, there's several different curriculum areas, and we have areas that are called social, cognitive, and executive functioning. And what I would do if I was this parent is I would just become a member for like a month or something, go on there and look through those curriculum areas. Depending on the age of your child, you'll have either a lot of things to teach or just a few things to teach, but the system will tell you exactly how to teach those skills. One of the examples I give when I'm lecturing is a lot of people say, oh, just put your child in school, they'll model and they'll learn and so on. And I find that's not really true. In fact, I find what you're going through here is more common than most people would expect. Because we put our kids in these, to begin with, for all kids, middle school is a difficult time because kids develop at such a different rate, and you have some children who become bullies, other children who just like to make fun, other kids who are going through their own sort of ego stuff, and it's a tough phase, and to make sure that our kids survive and flourish during those years is tough. It really is. So it would be important to teach skills like how to join a group and socialize, how to communicate with a bunch of other kids. How do I pay attention to the subject matter that's of interest to other kids rather than just myself? What are the things that I have to avoid doing that make me seem odd? Those types of things. And so there's a lot of just content material. Aside from that, there are generally a few things that make our kids popular. So this is the shortcut.
Yeah.
Some of our kids have incredible talents in music, let's say, or art. And I really strongly suggest to our families to develop those because they always come in handy. Logan is a good example of that, where he may have had difficulties with social skills, but I mean, this is one of our little boys who was actually, when he was very young, had one of his self-stimulatory behaviors was shaking his hands like this, and we sort of turned that around into drumming, and he is spectacular at drumming. And I don't know if we've shown on this show, but he has several. He's been in the talent show, and it's spectacular when you see him doing his little drum thing, and then the girls in the front row are all screaming for him, and so taking our kids' special skills and turning them into something that other kids envy, really, whether it's music or art ability or acting even, or sports. Those are the things that tend to make our kids more popular in middle school. Now, and of course, have all of that aside, you just want to make sure that regardless of how popular they are, I mean, you do want to do play dates and you do want to bring kids home. And there's a lot of research that shows that if the child has sort of a cool object, let's say Dr. Dre headphones right now, you know, then that will make the child more popular amongst friends. So, you know, there's different ways to approach it. We criticize those things. We often say like, oh, you know, this kid always comes to school with something cool. But the truth is, other kids of the same age don't look at it that way. They just think like, oh wow, he's got the coolest music, the coolest headsets, whatever. And those are the things you do. And it's when you talk about other kids coming to approach and talk with you, the research is predominantly take an object to school that's of interest and it'll draw a lot of attention, and others will come and ask you about it and talk to you about it.
And I think many people could get judgmental about that, about, well, why are we making it about things? But I think for those of us who are parents of these individuals on the spectrum, I don't know about everybody else, but I think, how can I get him through these years? It's not going to be the rest of his life, but this is a period of time when the other kids, that's their currency.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, we criticize a lot of things that we do ourselves. Like, I mean, look at the entire world and how the world responds to celebrities. Yeah. I mean, there really is nothing different with a celebrity than the fact that perhaps they're very beautiful, or they're funny, or they have a lot of money. I mean, and the truth is, you know, people are drawn to celebrities for a variety of those reasons. And it is all materialistic type stuff. But nevertheless, we're talking here about therapeutically what to do to make our kids more popular.
Right. It gets it done.
Right.
So great advice. Right. We are going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with more Ask Dr. Doreen. Stick with us.
Hello, fellow activists. Today we're going to talk about the 10 steps to empowerment. Step number 1, accept and embrace this challenge. By telling you to accept and embrace the challenge, I don't mean you have to love autism. Let's get this straight. I love my child with autism, but I hate that autism stole a big part of his childhood. When I look back at my journey, I realize that I knew in my gut that my son was regressing at the age of 2. I had a hard time with acceptance. It didn't come easy for me. My denial may have stemmed from the fact that I didn't want to go through what my own mother had, raising a child with Down syndrome with no support. I even equated my mother's alcoholism with her being stuck at home with a disabled child. I didn't want that life for myself. I couldn't believe that, having lived through the experience of having a brother with special needs, I was now faced with having to raise my own child with special needs as well. But being in denial did not make the truth go away. It's when we can accept the truth that it can set us free. Until next time, stay strong and keep the faith.
Welcome back. We are here with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, an expert in the field of autism, and really, I always like to say a visionary, because that's what you are. You have the ability to see what our kids need today and down the road, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, you are phenomenal at taking other people's perspective. You put yourself in their circumstance and see it in a way that I don't know anyone else who does, and so it's a treat and a delight to have you here answering our questions.
Great, thank you.
We had some more people writing in questions tonight. I'm going to start with this one because I think it's really interesting. Hi, Dr. Doreen and Shannon. My son just started ABA with CARD. I have my IEP meeting today. All the assessments that were done by CARD in school districts show great delays and deficits in all areas. It's depressing to see how all these low scores, how much he is delayed. My concern is, would ABA help him catch up with all these categories of delayed aspects, educational and normalcy? He is turning 3 on Sunday. We got him 40 hours of ABA. You're on it, and I love that. According to the school assessments, he meets all criteria to receive everything. I'm obviously going to try to take OT and speech and continue with CARD for ABA. But they continue to write, I'm helpless helpless. Please help. I'm the mother of a child who was receiving 10 hours through the regional center before. I have him center-based in your Garden Grove office right now, and she writes, thank you and God bless you. And I just want to stop and say for a second, for those of you who are watching and you have heard everyone come on the show and talk about that 25 to 40 hours, and maybe you've gotten 10 or 15 hours, this is an example of one parent who asked and heard that's not enough.
Right.
And got it done.
Right, absolutely. So kudos to you for getting those hours. That's a hard thing to do. You've done everything that you should do at this point, and so to answer your question, yes, the purpose of ABA and the way, especially the card style of doing behavioral intervention, is really to catch your child up on everything. So, yeah, academic being the least important to me at this point at age 3. But yeah, we're talking language and social and cognitive and everything, all the different areas. And so your lesson plan, your programs will consist of a variety of lessons within those all areas of functioning. And your supervisor will choose those based on more on the ones that are the most delayed, and so that we can kind of get your child ready for school over the next year or two. And don't worry, you're in the best place right now. Your child's just turning 3. This is you have intervention at an early age. That's fabulous. You have a lot of intervention. You're with us. We're a good company, so we're going to do well with you. And the only other thing I would do is, 2 things, I guess. Try to get on my calendar at some point. You don't need to do it right now. You can do it over the next year so that I can see you at some point here in LA, in Tarzana. When I do that, you come with your supervisor, maybe a senior therapist as well, and we will review the whole thing together, and I'll make sure things are on track. And secondly, just make sure that there are no medical underlying issues. Look and make sure your child's sleeping well, make sure you're on a healthy diet, make sure you have tested for allergies or things that your child is not able to process very well. Possibly, with a lot of our kids, that would be gluten, casein, maybe corn, maybe soy, I don't know. But, the stronger your child is immunologically and can sleep well and all that sort of stuff, then the faster they learn and the better our kids do. So that's something important to do. Check the medical status of your child and stay involved. If you, and I will be the first to say this, I have, I don't know, somewhere close to 200 supervisors in this company. And we put a tremendous amount of effort on our clinical quality. I mean, we have the most senior of our staff doing our trainings for our supervisors. Like our training organization, IBT, is some of those folks most of those guys have been with me for over almost 20 years, and so they're the best of the best people, and they are just fabulous. The supervisors at CARD receive incredible training, and they receive incredible ongoing oversight. Our quality assurance department, Sienna, she's getting her PhD in this field, almost done with that. She's been with me for ages and ages as well, and really, really looks at the quality of the cases. Our clinical director, Evelyn Kong, she's amazing and oversees all these cases. I just yesterday added someone else to that, to the clinical department, who's also a very old-time supervisor who will just be looking around at all of the patient's progress. We have a lot of oversight, but having said that, you are the parent, and just become a team with your supervisor and with your staff. You will have difficulties, there's no question. You'll have therapists who cancel for one reason or another. You'll have therapist changes occurring because the therapist schedules alternate due to the fact that most of our therapists are also college students getting their master's degrees or something. And so, be patient about that stuff. Don't worry, don't panic. Work together with your supervisor and stay involved. A lot of the cases that the children that do really well is because the parent is involved. and is able to learn. One of the things I plan on doing, I haven't done yet, I should do, is really start to mandate for all of our families to go through a whole series on IBT training, because I really feel like parent training is so critical. You will be trained through us anyway, because your supervisor will show you so much and teach you so much, but you know, theoretical training, class time type thing on web-based intervention or training, which is what IBT does, Institute for Behavioral Training, is critical. It's really useful. I mean, you know this, Shannon, right?
Oh,
it's just
so
the more
important.
you know, the more you understand what your child is doing, and the more you know how to intervene when we're not there.
Yeah. I always, the thing that somebody said to me at CARD that I wrote and put on a wall that we had in our house, our condo, was, I don't want to be the weakest person on my child's team.
Oh, that's awesome.
And that was the thing that overrode everything else. I want to make sure
That's a great saying.
Yeah, and somebody from CARD said it to me, don't be the weakest person on your child's team.
Right.
And that, I went, okay, that I can do. It doesn't require that I be the strongest person.
Right.
Because I had some rock stars. Some of the
Yeah.
people that are doing that training
Sure.
are rock stars, but to not be the weakest person on the team.
Right.
Which meant I had to frequently run to catch up with the pack.
Right.
But it gave me a goal.
Right. Absolutely.
And was essential.
Yeah, and also knowing that ABA is not just sessions of time that are restricted to 40 hours. When you know how to reinforce and take away reinforcers and modify antecedents and consequences and so on, you do it all day long, you do it all the time, and your child is essentially learning. You as a parent have a huge effect on handling certain things with your child. If I have a parent who's really involved and they're pretty consistent with how we handle challenging behaviors, the behaviors are gone in like 4 to 6 months, you know? If I have a parent who doesn't understand how challenging behaviors shouldn't be rewarded and so on, and they keep giving in,
Right.
the behaviors go on forever and it hinders the child's learning.
Yeah.
So there's a lot your influence as a parent is tremendous.
Absolutely. And I would just like to say, I'm reading what you wrote, and it sounds very familiar to me, because my son, he had his first IEP 2 weeks before his 3rd birthday, and he started with CARD 2 weeks after his 3rd birthday. And when I went in for that IEP meeting, he was significantly behind in everything, with one exception. He could stand on one foot in balance, and they said, in this respect, he's like a 4-year-old. And I kept clutching to that, because it was the one thing that he was ahead. Everything else, there were things that he tested. He was about to be 3, and he tested as a 1-year-old. There was something that he tested as a 6-month-old. Mm-hmm. And, my husband and I left that meeting, and I said, I don't know whether I want to go drink or go lay underneath the bed, not even underneath the covers, go underneath the bed. It just seems so insurmountable. How are we ever going to get there? And I remember during the meeting, they said, well, what is it you want? And I said, I want him to go to kindergarten on time in a typical class and be caught up. And the one woman said, oh, well, that's going to be difficult. And I got really angry. It was really a defining moment for me, because I said, you know what? I'm an autism parent. Don't talk to me about difficult. Talk to me about what's possible. And what I was hearing from CARD was that it was possible. I didn't get a guarantee, because all of our kids are different, but I heard that it was possible. If I did X, Y, and Z, it was possible.
Right.
And we have a video of what my son went through, because he did go to kindergarten on time with his peers in a typical class, caught up. In that 2-year time period, CARD got him caught up. It wasn't to say that he was done in that moment, but he was ready for kindergarten.
Right, and that's a really important point. I mean, first of all, I hate that there are people out there that are still ignorant and are still just, they think they're actually doing you a favor by, telling you not to be hopeful.
Right.
Which I think is the most ridiculous thing in the world. I will never forget, many, many years ago, gosh, I don't know, early 90s. When I started to go to court for families a lot in the early 90s, that was in California. We were trying to get funding for everyone, so I was testifying on behalf of our kids a lot. And I remember, I will never forget this one hearing I went to in the Simi Valley area, and I'll just never forget that the judge, the hearing officer, it was with the regional center actually, and that regional center is much better and works with us much nicer now. But back then, they actually, my telephone number, this is so far back, that was the first office. It was in Encino, and the phone number was 995 HOPE. It's spelled out 4673. It's spelled out HOPE. And the hearing officer was very upset about that. Why would I have a phone number that spelled out HOPE? And was I not being unethical in terms of giving parents hope? I mean, that's one example, and then I can take you back to just 2 years ago, Shannon. Just 2 years ago, when we had a family in a different state, I won't say, and the Board of Psychology in that state where I'm licensed in multiple states, and the Board of Psychology of that state brought me up and said, because in that state we had published an article that showed that half of our kids had recovered, and one of the people on the board brought me up and showed me the newspaper article, because we say recovery. I don't really know, English is not my first language, but I don't really know what the difference is between recovery and cure. I mean, there is some sort of a subtle difference, but I'm not sure I could vocalize it. Right. But anyway, the board officer brought the newspaper article because the journalist had written, card claims to cure children from autism, and he was like, this is unethical and completely unprofessional and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, really? Why? I mean, this is a good example right here. It's like there's so many people that are doing great and functioning and speaking about it. And oh gosh, the day that, it'll be such a great day for me, the day that people actually accept the fact that some of our kids recover. And the issue is more that what you said, which is very important, is that it's not like you go through, some kids go through like 2 to 3 years and they're completely done with everything. Other kids, within 2 to 3 years, they join the mainstream, and they're not really they're at a point where they can interact with their peers, they can join in, they can come back and talk to you about it, they start to process and analyze, and then therapy takes another 4 years after that at a lower intensity. Right. But some of my kids who've recovered have been in treatment with us for 10 years. Yeah. But the point is that the more important point is there isn't anyone who doesn't improve. Yeah. So these are all really important things. Don't be afraid. Don't worry. You're doing everything right at this point.
You're in the right place, and you're so far ahead of the game that he's about to be 3. You've already got the funding for 40 hours.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
The whole first year I fought for that. I got about halfway through. I got the 40 hours on board. Right. And that first year, I would just say as a parent, fasten your seatbelt, be on the team, don't be the weakest person, and get ready for the ride of your life, because in a year, your life is going to look so different than it looks today.
Right, absolutely.
It's going to be amazing. And you're concerned about, is it possible to get caught up? I know firsthand it's possible to get caught up.
Yeah, totally.
So it's doable. It's pretty amazing. We should take another break, and then we're going to come back with more of your questions after these messages.
Hi everyone! In the cold winter months, it can be really nice to sit down and enjoy a nice, warm apple crisp. And thanks to Breads from Anna, we can make one for you gluten and yeast free. So let's go over what we're going to need. To make the filling, you're going to need 1½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, 7 cups of Granny Smith apples, and 3 tablespoons of Breads from Anna pie crust. For your topping, you're going to need 1 cup of rolled oats, 1/3 cup of brown sugar, 3/4 cup of Breads from Anna pie crust mix, 3/4 cup of butter, melted, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1 tablespoon vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of water. Don't forget to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So now let's cut some apples. We're going to peel and slice 6 apples. So as you're cutting your apples, make sure you add your lemon juice to make sure that they don't brown and oxidize. So once all my apples are cut and sliced, I'm going to go ahead and add the nutmeg, cinnamon, and the pie crust mix. So we're just going to stir these together. So we've got a 13 by 9, and we're just going to spray this with a little bit of grapeseed oil. And then we're going to pour our apples into the dish. And to make our topping, we're just going to combine the rest of the ingredients in a small bowl. All right, that looks pretty good. We're just going to pour this evenly over the top of the apples, and we should be good to go. All right, this is ready to bake, 30 to 35 minutes at 350 degrees. It's been 30 minutes, so our crisp should be all done. All right, it's pretty hot, so you would probably want to let it sit for a little while, but we're going to go ahead and serve up a slice here. To learn how you can win free mix from Breads from Anna, visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/autismlive. See you soon.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We have with us in the studio Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh. She is an expert in the field of autism, and she is answering your questions right now on the live feature and on Facebook. You can go there, www.autism-live.com, and in the white box, just type what you want to put, hit enter, and it shows up magically here. You don't have to log in. You're not registering with a credit card. It's completely anonymous. Unless you want to leave us information so we can get back to you, which the next person, I'm not going to show the question because they've left their information. Hi, Dr. Doreen. Just wanted to know if you're ever going to be in the New Jersey area. I have a 3.5-year-old son who I think can be recovered because of all the stuff he knows and how he acts. But there's something missing. I don't know what. I would travel without thinking twice to see you. I would do anything for my son, but I can't due to my being an immigrant, so I can't travel. Please, if you are ever thinking of being around New Jersey, please let me know. And they left their email, and she said to say thank you to you. You are an angel.
That's very nice. I don't know why they can't travel as an immigrant. I mean, you could still come to California, but still, we have an office in New York, in Larchmont. We have another office in northern New York as well, but we're actually opening, and we have patients in New Jersey even right now. Like, we have a bunch of patients in New Jersey. I'm not sure exactly what parts of New Jersey, but I know that some of the supervisors from the Larchmont, New York office travel to New Jersey every week. They have patients there. So if you're interested in actually being seen by one of our clinicians in New York or in New Jersey, what you have to do is contact the Larchmont office. You can actually contact our 800 number here. So go on our website, centerforautism.com, and go in the admissions section, I guess, and just put it, ask for someone from Larchmont to get in touch with you.
And Emily can put up the 800 number too, so that you guys can see.
Absolutely, you can call the 800 number as well. So the senior, sort of the regional, I guess, manager for the area in New York is Deidre, and she is fabulous. Deidre she's a BCBA and she's a special ed itinerant teacher, and she's lovely human being, and she's spectacular with all levels of kids, and she's been with me for a long time. So I would recommend that you contact our Larchmont office and ask to have a conversation with Deidre. And then so that's one thing you can do, because she would assign, we have very good supervisors in New York. They're very strong people because they're all special ed itinerant teachers as well, so they're really strong. They would come out, evaluate your child, meet with you, and guide you and then also tell you what your options are for funding. New York State just gave us insurance funding, yes,
Yay.
and so we can get insurance funding for you as well, depending on the age of your child and so on. So that's one thing to do. Seeing me is a different thing. I mostly now see patients. I mean, I see all of card patients as much as I possibly can, but just for treatment. But mostly parents come to me just for my opinion on if they're doing the right thing and what else they should be doing. So, I'm always happy to see you. I do go to New York. Not sure when my next trip is going to be. I know I'm going to the East Coast for a conference that we're doing in Florida, and then beyond that, I don't know that I'm going to New York this year anymore. But having said that, my travel is usually listed on our website as well, so that you can see the next time that I come out to New York. And we are expanding heavily in the New York area. So we're now growing Larchmont, which will be a center-based place so that you can actually drop your child off there as well. And we're also opening a program affiliated with a church in Queens. And so I'm hoping that we will gradually just open many sites throughout the boroughs and all around New Jersey, Long Island, all around there, so that we can help families just like we have in California, and I think that New York is definitely, now that we have funding, that whole area, and New Jersey, of course. New Jersey is one of the states that has the highest incidence of autism. So we really want to be able to be involved there.
Really remarkable. Okay, so keep in touch, and we've got your email address as well. I will file that so that if we know that Dr. Doreen is going to New York, we'll be in touch. But I would encourage you to reach out to the 800 number and the New York office.
One of the things I always want to say, like this other family who was in Florida who came and visited us, who was part of the Autism Live show. If you have other families, if you gather, let's say 5 or 10 other families, and they all want services, we have a process where if we actually get, and since I know we have 2 or 3 families already in New Jersey, if you guys are all in the same area and you find a few more families who might be interested in services, we'll actually open a physical site faster. In other words, our expansion department kind of lines the sites up based on the need. And so your New Jersey can pop up and go higher on the list, so that it would be early next year, middle of next year, that we open a physical site, transfer staff, have center-based services, home-based services, school services, everything, if we have enough clients there. So that's something you could do, is you could gather other families and talk to them.
And that's so doable, and so many other families have done it. One of the Mission Possible videos that we feature on the show and that you can watch on the card site, one of the families in Boston talked about when both of their children were diagnosed with autism, and she didn't know what she was going to do, and how they started as a workshop family but built into being an office, which is now 2 offices. Just because they said, what I need for my child isn't here. I can't be the only one. I'm going to start, and somebody will walk with me, and people do.
Absolutely, and that's what's happening right now in Florida.
Yes,
and
amazing.
This was a mom who listens to our show. She's probably listening today.
Yes,
Hi.
and we say hello to our Florida contingent.
Right, and she came out, and I evaluated her child as well, and she has a program going, and she has a fabulous program going because she's following the skills curriculum, and she's making sure everybody's doing the right thing. And she's a unique mom. There are some moms that are just like unbelievable and can move mountains.
She's amazing.
She's really amazing. Yeah, and I'm just amazed by people like that. But having said that, almost every card office, I would say, that we've had, and we're past 25 now, has been opened because of a group of families being there and saying, we need your help. And then we're very, very lucky now. It's so much easier than it used to be, Shannon. Oh my God. Now we have almost 200 supervisors who are board certified, and people transfer, people move. So it's not that hard to actually open an office. There used to be a time when it was just me and like 5 other supervisors, and it was very hard to open new sites.
It's the future is bright. And
Absolutely.
the ability to we've said for how many years we need to level the playing field and make this possible for everyone. We're nowhere near to that, but we're getting closer every day.
Absolutely.
It's very, very exciting. We should take another break. We'll be back more with Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh after these messages.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. For this month, I figured we're going to do a super special portrait that is in the theme of October, which means spooky eyes that follow you as you walk around. In this activity, you and your child are going to work on emotions and socio-dramatic play. So let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are a camera, a ping pong ball, X-Acto blade, tape, and a marker. And if your kids are up to it, props and costumes. Now let's take some photos. It's a great time to work on emotions and socio-dramatic play. Let's get our props.
See all the colors in the sky tonight. It's time to let the sunshine hide.
Once you've finished your photo shoot with your child, select one of the photos and print it out on a large piece of paper. Now that you've selected your photo, you're going to take an X-Acto blade and just cut out the eyes from it. This part of the activity is definitely only for the adults. Now that you've finished cutting out the eyes, what we're going to do next is take a ping pong ball and cut it in half. You'll see why in just a moment. So with the ping pong balls, we're going to create the illusion of the following eyes. So what you're going to do is take a marker and you're going to make a dot in the very, very center. You're going to want to make it like the same size of what the iris was in the photo. Now that the ping pong balls are done, I'm just going to tape them to the back of the photograph. So does it look like she's following you? Well, I hope you enjoyed this activity for Smarty. Until next time, craft on, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We have with us in the studio Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, an expert in the field of autism. This is just such a rare and wonderful treat and not that rare because we do it every Wednesday, but it's still, I get so excited about it because when my son was diagnosed, to have had the opportunity to have asked you a question in this format, I would have been homeless for a month for the opportunity. That's how much it would have meant to me, seriously.
I've always really wanted to do this. I'm so glad I get the opportunity to do this, honestly, because it's so hard. I don't think that there's very, very few families over the course of the last 30-somewhat years that I've seen where I haven't connected to the child and the family, and I feel like I've learned. I mean, everybody would learn, anybody would learn if you were in the field as long as I have been, you know, and I've seen so many kids and families and so on, and I've learned. And to be able to share that with a whole bunch of people is spectacular. It's lovely. By the way, how long have we been doing this show? I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, it's been over a year. Well, wow. This is our 403rd episode of Autism Live, Emily just said. But yeah, if you go to our YouTube channel, there are just so many videos, and you can search them by different topics. We're starting to work on a feature where there is a text-written list of all the questions you've answered, so that they can be categorized together.
I know, that's
and that somebody can look up and see, you know, I want to look at what Dr. Granpeesheh has said about toilet training, and here are the different questions, and you'll be able to click on it, and it'll take you directly to that.
That's
clip.
Amazing. Is that on YouTube as well? Is that going to be on YouTube as well? That feature?
We're planning on giving that to the card site so that people can go there and find the frequently asked questions first, and then expanding it to all of them that you've done. We have 43 Ask Dr. Doreen, as Emily just said. So that's a lot of 43 hours. And when you watch them on YouTube now, it lists all the questions in the beginning, and you can click on the questions you want to answer, and it will take you directly to there.
Right,
so eventually we want them all compiled in one place where you can, it's just a reference, you can click on the question and it'll take you directly there.
So our anniversary is still coming up, I guess.
Well, Yes.
Kind of cool.
So it is cool. It's a wonderful thing, and it gets me very excited to just be a part of it because I get to sit here and learn with all of you, which is an amazing treat for me. But back to questions. Okay. Hi, Dr. Doreen. Just wanted to know if you're ever going to... Oh, we already asked that one. Let's go back to the next one. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. Thank you so much for the great show. My daughter is 8 years old. She was diagnosed with ASD at the age of 3. She signs and uses AAC iPad application to communicate. She is aggressive with her younger sister, who is 4 years old. She pushes, pinches, pokes her sister's eyes in most of the opportunities. I think that this behavior is automatically reinforced by the sister's crying because it increases when the sister cries. It is tough to separate them, and I'm very concerned about my little daughter's safety. We really need Dr. Doreen's advice regarding this issue and will highly appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's not, I think this parent has probably had some training with ABA maybe, because they're using the term automatic reinforcement. This isn't automatic reinforcement. This actually has a function, and the function is to get her sister to cry. If that's what you think. Your perspective is that what your child's getting out of it is the ability to make her sister cry. I'm not sure why that would be reinforcing. Perhaps it's attention seeking. I'm not sure what happens when her sister cries, when your other daughter cries. Like, do you suddenly appear? Do you run into the room to try to rescue? You know, you kind of have to think about what the exact function of it is. First of all, so the concept again goes back to if she does that, you really have to identify the function a little bit better because you don't, whatever the actual reinforcement is, in other words, let's assume it's the sound of crying. Okay, so she should be able to not get that, she should be able to get that through some other means and not by just aggressing towards her sister. I doubt if that's it. I don't think a lot of our kids really enjoy that. I think it has to do with what happens after her sister cries. You really have to analyze that a little bit better and see, like, what happens? Why does she enjoy that? Do you then come in and separate them? Does someone come in and give her something to calm her down? What happens that's reinforcing? And then you just have to kind of make sure that that reinforcer is given to her at other times, not when she aggresses towards her sister. Now that's easier said than done. The first step of what you do is you have to prevent it. So if that means you have to have someone there all the time, or they have to be separated all the time, you have to do that. That's step one. Behavior always initiates based on some function, and then it kind of becomes a habit. You have to break that habit. You have to not allow her to physically aggress towards her sister. Period. You have to block it. And then you have to teach her more appropriate ways to interact with her sister. Until those two things happen, she's going to continue to do what she's doing because she's getting a reinforcer out of it, and we haven't even identified what that is. So we're kind of clueless right now.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
So at this point, would you say that I'm feeling like an expert to do an FBA on this behavior is going to be like
that's
the best?
FBA. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you have a BCBA there, if you have someone who's knows how to do a functional behavior assessment, that's what you do. You can go online and use our FBA and BIP builder software and answer a lot of questions about the behavior, and perhaps that'll help you actually get the function. The function of the behavior is really the reason, like why is she doing it? Without knowing what she's trying to communicate or why she's doing it, we can't treat it. Yeah. You always have to do an FBA. If the person FBAs are usually done by asking you a bunch of questions and perhaps observing the child. And that's how you normally can figure out. If it's very complicated and you can't figure it that way, then a board-certified person will do what's called an experimental FBA. An experimental FBA is they'll actually evoke the behavior and see what the child's getting out of it, and they'll change the circumstances, and then it'll become very clear. So you need to know the function of the behavior, because the way you treat things, challenging behaviors, is once you know the reason, like so it's attention seeking, or it's a tangible, which means she likes to actually see the child cry, the other child cry, that sort of thing. Once you understand all of that, then whatever it is she's trying to gain by her behavior is given to her for more appropriate behavior, and is not allowed to be accessed through this particular bad behavior. So, but unless you know what the reason is, you're kind of lost.
Yeah, you might waste time and
do the wrong
put everybody
intervention.
in jeopardy. Okay.
Right. But in the meantime, I really recommend that you block the behavior. You don't allow it to happen, because, you know, first of all, this is very harmful to the sibling, obviously. I mean, and secondly, our kids, sometimes our kids really, all they want to do is interact, and they don't know how to interact appropriately, so they do these, challenging and maladaptive behaviors, but really all they're trying to do is interact.
Yeah.
So you never know, if you teach your child other more interactive types of activities, this behavior could just be automatically replaced.
Absolutely.
And teach her things that would involve maybe physical activity, running, sports types things. Maybe they can jump together on a trampoline. Maybe they can throw a ball back and forth. Maybe they can, there's other things where there's some form of interaction, but not aggressive interaction.
Okay. We're almost out of time, so a couple of quick catch-up things. Our Florida contingent has said that yes, they are watching, and that mom that we said is so incredible. She said, thank you for all your kind words. Very emotional moment. We're counting down. Our families are so excited. Definitely a great year, and she sends her love.
Thank you.
Another person wrote it and said that this show is the best kept secret that shouldn't be secret. They send their love, and she says, you are my lifeline. You are ours as well.
That's awesome.
Okay, and now we have a long question, but we need a quick answer because we're almost out of time.
Got it.
Teeth grinding, ugh. This little boy will be 4 in December, nonverbal. He grinds and clenches his teeth at random times. I'm finding it is when he gets frustrated and or when he is asked to do something he doesn't want to do, or if he's doing something and gets distracted or interrupted. A mouthpiece would be hard to do because 1, I know he would not keep it in, and 2, he does it randomly. His OT suggested jaw massage and pressure, which does help, but when he is in the car and I'm driving, that is hard to do. It makes sense. I have found that since we are working on speech, getting in to say ah or ba 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 does get him to stop and open and loosen his mouth. All of this is a quick fix. I'm looking for something long-term to prevent him from doing it at all, not just stopping. Suggestions? I'm so afraid that he is going to clench so hard that he will break a tooth or worse, bite his tongue, and help in capital letters.
Yeah. I have to answer this one quickly, but I actually have a lot to say about this. Okay. So let me try to get to the point right away. For driving, when you're driving, make sure that he has these chewy toys that are like sort of made of rubber, and they're for infants who are teething. Make sure that you have something like that accessible, and make sure that you teach him. I mean, you're not going to be able to teach him if you're the one driving and there's no one else in the car, but you can, if you have a therapist on hand, or if you have a babysitter or someone can help you, start to replace the behavior first of all with having a chewy toy, because that'll stop hurting his teeth. So you'll give him, what he'll learn is that just before he's about to do that behavior, he'll grab the chewy toy and start chewing on it, so that he'll feel the pressure that he currently needs, but it won't be destroying his teeth and perhaps also causing problems with his jaw. So that's the first thing, just immediate. Second thing is things like, well, do we have the age of the child? 4. Yeah, so you could have someone teach him how to chew gum. That would be very good and replace certain we've found that chewing gum is amazing in terms of replacing certain behaviors. It's fabulous. So, you know, a behaviorist could show you the steps of actually having your child learn to chew gum. We might even have that in skills as a lesson. I'm not sure. But you're welcome to write to our ARG, or Autism Research Group, on their website. They have a paper they've published on teaching children how to chew gum. That will help replace some of this stuff. Now, because of all the things that you mentioned in the first part of the email, it makes me think that the child might be slightly stressed when they do this. So really you need to teach the child other more functional ways of dealing with stress. And I don't know the level of functioning of the child, and the child's pretty young. So you just want to teach the child other things, like for instance, deep breathing. Like in other words, when an episode of clenching starts, start teaching the child things like relaxation. Yes, OTs, also speech pathologists, will show you how to massage this area of the jaw, and so that the child's mouth opens a little bit, and then to do deep breathing and relaxation. This is the area that often people who clench their teeth, they need this area massaged. It's basically the mandibular jaw. So you have to like really massage that area and help the child keep their mouth open. Yeah, those are some fast ideas.
Okay. Great advice all day today. So thrilled to have the opportunity to be here with you. And we will plan on seeing you next week for Ask Dr. Doreen. You can keep your questions
happy Halloween to all our kids and families. Tomorrow's Halloween, so I hope it's a wonderful one for everyone.
And Nancy and I, coming up in the next segment, we have a Halloween treat for you.
Great.
A trick and a treat for you. And we will, we're going to go to the A word, and then we will come back for Ask Dr. No, we already did Ask Dr. Doreen. I'm so excited about all of it. We'll be back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and our special guest during that hour will be Kerry Magro, a really amazing young man. He's got a new book out, Defining Autism from the Heart, but the subtitle is Going from Being Nonverbal to Being a National Speaker. This young man is inspirational with a capital I. You're not going to want to miss it. But first we have the A word. This is the ongoing documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. And if you want to see the difference that a year or 2 can make, you really want to watch this series. Let's take a look at how Jack has taken his autism program out into the community and all the fun that they're having now with him interacting with different people. This is the A word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack.
Jack Riley.
He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
Yes, I do.
I sing Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Jack is my buddy. Everybody around is so down with Jack.
The silly bodies consist of him like running up, bumping up against people, objects, when he's tensing. So we implement the rule that he has a certain number of happy faces he has at the very beginning. He loses them every time he engages in that behavior. His motivation is to at least have one at the end of the session, and then he gets to have his preferred activity or treat that he only gets if he's able to maintain at least one happy face. This is a response cost, so he can't earn them back. He only loses them. So why is Suzanne laughing at you?
Because he said something.
Because I said something funny.
Because I said something
Jeff
funny.
Riley. Okay, that's one.
Because I said something funny. Because I said something funny.
There you go, but why did I take a happy face away? Because you were, look at me, because you were tensing, okay? So no tensing.
I gotta get my smelly back. We need it.
We don't get it back. You can have a nice calm body, and then you won't lose anymore. You're doing so good so far though, Jack. Look, you have 4 left. Today we're gonna go into the library, okay? And there's some rules that we have to follow in the library. So you have to stay with Dad or Miss Suzanne or Miss Jessica in the library, okay?
Or Mr. Brown.
Or Miss. And what kind of voice do you have to use in the library? Do you use a loud voice or a hey?
And Jason.
Good job. You whisper, okay? And there's books there, there's computers and toys in there, okay? Hey, look at me. If you want to touch or look at anything, you have to tell Dad, okay? If you do a good job and you have a nice calm body to do listening, and you have at least one happy face, what do you get?
Your iPod.
That's right.
That is at home.
It's in my pocket. I have it right here. Okay? So go with Dad, hold his hand. Inside voice, okay?
What do you want
to get a book about?
About towers.
About what?
Towers.
Tales, fairy tales, castles.
Okay.
Let's have this book.
Nursery rhymes? We're going to go find this book, okay?
Let's go.
Come on.
Nursery rhymes that is in the castle.
See how they have letters? We're looking for the letter A.
Let's go find A.
Go find the letter A. Let's go find it.
Yeah, that's the number 4. We're looking for the number 5.
We found the letter A.
And this is the.
Want to get that one?
Do you want to read that?
That one and bring it up. Let's go upstairs, please.
You're doing good asking, buddy.
Happy Halloween. We're here today to show you some really easy, healthy recipes that you can make for Halloween with your children. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is make this lovely cauliflower brain. And the ingredients that we need for this, we need some sort of a platter. We need a cauliflower, and we have an organic cauliflower here. Emily, take it away for us.
We have some natural guacamole, some organic salsa, some potato chips, and then some pull string licorice.
Okay, so those are all the things that we're going to need. Plus we have a very sharp knife and a spoon. So using the knife and preparing the cauliflower can be something you can do beforehand, before you call the children in, depending on their ages and their skill level. All right, so we're going to pull the leaves off of this and put the pieces away. You can compost them if you do that sort of thing, or just throw them away. You want to remove all of the green. This part might be fun actually for the kids. It's a difficult one. I'm just going to slice this part off and pull some more of the green out because there's no green on the brain. But one key thing here is that we want to slice off just the tip here so that it's going to sit flat like a brain. And this is the point where the kids can be really helpful. If you have it already measured, and that's about 1.5 cups of salsa, whatever size platter you're using, and you can have them dump it right on the plate, and that's a pretty enjoyable part of it. Swish it around. Okay, we can put the cauliflower right in the middle of it. And you can see how easy this is. Super duper easy, has big impact if you're doing a Halloween party, but it's also having fun with your veggies, something that we want to do with the kids. And we can take the chips. I'm going to let you do that with the licorice while I throw some chips around the plate. And these, by the way, are organic, oven-fried, no-salt chips. You can use whatever you want, but we want to keep this as healthy as possible. And she's laying those laces around so they look like the veins of the brain that has gone bad. You can see it just takes a couple of minutes and you end up with this lovely, delicious, healthy brain for the children to eat. And it looks good on the table too. Tastes good too, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Right now, what we're gonna make are hot dog mummies. These are really fun. You can see our finished ones over here. We only need a few things for this. We need some hot dogs. Right now we're using organic chicken hot dogs that are fully cooked, which is a wonderful thing. We have some mustard. We have some all-natural crescent dough on a plastic sheet that we can roll it out on. We have our rolling pin. I have a little bit of coconut flour, but you can use any kind of flour that you want. This just smells awesome, and we have a sharp knife. So this is the part of the project that we want to be careful around kids. You could use a duller knife or a plastic knife, or do this part yourself when the kids aren't around. But if you open up your refrigerated dough and you roll it out, just throw a little bit of coconut flour onto it so that it doesn't stick as much to the rolling pin, and roll it out so that you can't see the lines anymore. Oh, it smells good, doesn't it? I love the smell of coconut flour. And it bakes really a wonderful scent too into the whole house. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because the great thing about this recipe is that it's very forgiving. If the dough breaks when you're wrapping up the hot dog, it's okay, because the mummy can have lots of different bandages. All right, we're gonna go and just cut through this dough. And they can be different width strips, it doesn't really matter. And you really could do this with a plastic knife. I want to mention too that if you have dietary considerations and you need something to be gluten-free, I did this the other day for my son with a gluten-free pizza crust mix, and it worked the same. I just had to be really careful. I thought that the key to it all was getting the dough really dry while I was rolling it out and cutting it out, and then wetting it before I wrapped it around the dry hot dogs. Okay, so I'm gonna take one hot dog and Emily's gonna take another, and part of the fun of this is that you want to make like a little hat so that there is a place later on to put eyeballs made out of mustard. So you can wrap it around the head, make like a turban for your mummy, and then start to, and you see it broke. Doesn't matter, because it's dough and it can be a separate bandage. It's not a problem. You just wrap it around. The kids love this because they know they're going to get to eat it later on. It's very healthy and a quick dinner that makes it really fun. You just slather it on. And then we're going to bake it for about 12 to 14 minutes at a 350-degree oven. See, easy. He's got a head. Oh, yours is so much prettier than mine. She's Martha Stewart. Okay, so we're gonna put that into the oven. We don't need to do anything else. And I put it on some parchment paper so that I don't have to use any kind of spray or oil or anything and add ingredients. We're gonna stick it into the oven, and through magic, this is what they look like when they're done. And the other fun element of this is that then you take the mustard and you can give it to the kids for them to put eyes right on, and Emily's going to do that. Awesome. And if you want bloody mummies, you can include ketchup. So, those are big eyes. The other day when I did this with my son, he wanted to put sliced olives on top of the mustard for eyes. But you can see that these are cute, they're tasty, and really healthy. Those are mummy hot dogs. And you can write Happy Halloween in mustard if you're Martha Stewart. Very good.
All right, we're gonna move on to some spooky spider cupcakes. So what you're gonna wanna do is bake a box of regular brand cupcake, or they have gluten-free, sugar-free options as well.
Awesome ones, yes.
Which are great. I pre-made these cupcakes standard. Cupcake rules apply. You'll need some eggs and some oil and water. But we've gone ahead and done that already. So what you wanna do is take some chocolate frosting, and we're gonna frost our cupcake with a thin layer. Doesn't need to be too crazy.
Ooh.
Yes.
Smells good too.
Does smell good. And then we brought some blue sprinkles, and these are naturally colored with vegetable juice, correct?
Vegetable juice, blue.
Which is fantastic. And so these are blue, and then we're gonna just sprinkle the top of our cupcake here.
Awesome.
For eyes, I just got some jelly beans here of different colors. You can use M&Ms or whatever you're more comfortable using. And all you want to do is split your jelly bean in half. So there's your eyeball, Shannon.
Awesome.
I'll have orange eyes on mine. And then you're just going to place them in the front of the cupcake. And then for their little scary legs, we've got some pull and peel Twizzler here, but they also sell natural candy rope, which you can use as well. So then we're just going to pull off our little legs, and the cupcakes are soft enough where you can actually stick the little leg right into it.
And you're just jamming them down?
Just jam them in there.
Alrighty. Ooh, look at that leg.
And this is a good time to teach your kids about bugs and that they have 8 legs.
That's a great thing to add to the lesson. And you know, there's lots of different other things too. Like I have frosting on my hands, and sometimes kids don't like that. It's a flexibility issue. But this is a wonderful way in which to work on those things so that, you know, they can take those skills with them later on. If it's at home and it's a little bit of frosting with you, it's a little bit more reinforcing because it tastes good than if they're on the schoolyard and it's mud and things like that.
And then once you're done, you have your little 8-legged friend.
Mine looks like he needs a haircut, but but they're very fun and they taste good, and the kids will enjoy working on these.
That's right, and they're super cute.
They are. And that's Halloween. Healthy and fast and fun.
Good morning, and welcome to Let's Talk Autism. I'm Lucy.
And I'm Ethel. And you're freaking me out because you are such a good Lucy. You've got all the faces and you look incredible. I would not have believed it, but how much you look like her.
I know. My husband was a little upset today because I kept running around the house going, Ricky, Ricky, Ricky.
I love it.
And he was going, ay, 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 you're killing me, woman. And he said I was even walking like her. And when he talks to me, I shoot the eyebrows up and...
The eyelashes are amazing.
Yeah, so...
I bow to you. It's absolutely incredible. Nobody would know I was Ethel unless I was standing directly next to you. But
so tell us what inspired this get-up
first
today.
of all, happy Halloween to everybody.
Yes, it's
and,
a day early, but...
Yes, but we wanted to partake and participate with you. And some people have started saying to us, there were 3 different people who had said to us, you guys are like the Lucy and Ethel of Autism. And so I said to Nancy, are you game for this? And look at how game she is.
Well, I went to a costume store and got a 50s day dress. The shoes are even, well, I don't want to pull out my mic, but even the shoes are like 50s Lucy shoes.
You look incredible.
And then the wig, of course, which, you know, I had to like pin on and put the headbands on. But I went on YouTube and found a Lucy makeup tutorial. So this morning I did all the base makeup and the shading, and you know, Lucy, I mean, I read all this great stuff about her in doing this.
Amazing.
She was really a daughter of vaudeville. Her father was a vaudevillian actor, and her whole makeup thing, the doll eyes, the lashes, the big eyebrows, and of course the big red lips, was all so her facial features could be accentuated.
Yeah.
So if something went wrong, she could go. If something was surprising, she could go.
I love
and
it.
if Ethel or Ricky made her upset, she could go.
It's great, Nancy. Well, of course, Ethel, the whole thing was they were always trying to down Ethel up so that, you know, to make her look so much better. I didn't have to work hard to do that. They had to pad her. I didn't have to pad myself.
They had to pad her?
They padded Vivian. Vivian Vance was a torch song singer.
She was beautiful.
She was gorgeous.
Yes, they both were.
But she was very funny, and she was a singer, and so they padded Ethel so that she would always look heavier than Lucy, no matter what Lucy's weight went and did.
Okay.
And you know, so Ethel, I feel very appropriately Ethel today to the brilliance of your Lucy.
But the funny thing about Lucy is I don't think people thought of her as a beauty.
Oh, she certainly was.
She was gorgeous.
Absolutely.
And also an amazing, she blazed a trail for women.
Absolutely.
She, you know, with her Desilu Productions, with the fact that she was so in charge of that company, and she was just a great lady.
You're just freaking me out with those eyelashes. You really look like her. Okay. It's wonderful. So we hope that you'll participate with us and enjoy our Lucy and Ethel, because we have an amazing show for you. A little bit later, we're going to be joined via Skype by Kerry Magro, author of this wonderful book, Defining Autism from the Heart. The subtitle is Going from Being Nonverbal to Being a National Speaker. Amazing young man. He's been on the show before.
Okay, can't wait to meet him today.
He is incredible. So that's a little bit later on in the show, but we always like to start with In the News.
Yes.
It's slightly ridiculous.
Do it with us? We could react. Can we react as Lucy and Ethel?
Absolutely. Yes, Ethel is just to be disapproving, I think.
Okay,
and to be the
Lucy.
Fuddy-duddy.
She did a lot of Lucy. Yeah, she did, didn't she?
Yeah.
That was
Lucy. Why are you doing it that way, right? No. That's Ethel. That's my impersonation.
I stayed up till midnight last night watching episodes. I was so hooked on her.
I was up till 1:30 trying to make something of this Marilyn Monroe wig, and I think I've turned into George Washington or something else instead, or a dog that poops blonde things. I don't know. It doesn't look that good, but I'm working it. I'm working it, and then again. Anyway, it does. It looks a little bit more. I'm serious. If I were to walk down this, people might think I'm Betsy Ross. Unless I'm with you, then we can sell the Lucy Ethel thing. All right, in the news. Lucy.
Let's get started.
Let's get started.
Okay, this story really resonated with me because it's about a mom who, Shell Jones is her son. When he was 10 months old, she noticed that he was having certain behaviors. He was 2 when he was diagnosed, and she lives in the suburbs of eastern Michigan, and she found there was nowhere to take him to play, that they didn't get stares and feel uncomfortable. I can certainly relate to this. One of his favorites was Chuck E. Cheese, but because of his cognitive delays, the boy is now 10, Dwayne, he heads straight for the toddler zone. We all know this one, right? Yeah. The Teletubby toy. How many of you, Wyatt used to go to that Teletubby toy, and I would be like, get off that Teletubby toy. So physically they're too big for the toy, that kind of thing. And she would often think, I don't want people to make fun of him. So she hatched a plan for a facility that would combine play and learning and welcome families of children with ASD. It's called the Play Place for Autistic Children, and she originally envisioned it small, and everything would have a therapeutic element. So a carousel to help with sensory integration, white bouncers for balance and coordination, computer center, laser light chalk room, movie theater, and calming centers. And she has all but stopped doing her work at an environmental services company that she used to run with her husband, and she's getting the Play Place up and running in conjunction with staff of 3 salaried employees and a board of directors that includes a special education professional, occupational therapist, and they've been raising money, and within 18 months she wants to see it developed in what she envisions as the Disney World for children with autism. And it's just a great thing that it shows you how one mom can really make a difference.
One person, and to find your passion where there's something for everyone to do, and it doesn't all look the same. I couldn't start I couldn't come up with that wouldn't be my thing, but we all serve in our way, right. And what an inspiration she is. Remarkable mom.
Now this one I'm not sure about, Ethel. Bangalore scientists find autism cure. Yeah?
Actually reported in the news this week. Hard to believe, right?
Yeah. What do you think of this one, Ethel?
There have been so many stories in the news that you just raise your eyebrow, right? Raise your perfectly arched eyebrow, Lucy. You want to start?
Sure. It says scientists have found a new drug target against one of the most commonest types of autism, open up a window for developing a medicine for the disorder, incurable at the moment. The target is specific to the Fragile X syndrome. It was discovered in a laboratory experiment and required to be taken up by the pharmaceutical industry before any medicine is available commercially. Of course, we always know that. But the new drug, as and when it will be available, would not have any side effects, unlike 2 other molecules which are currently being tested by 2 pharmaceutical majors, said Sumantra Chatterjee, a senior scientist at National Center for Biological Sciences, Bangalore. He and his colleagues at the Institute for Stem Cell Biology and Regenerative Medicine have been working on this to target a new drug. And they say 2 major pharmaceutical companies are testing the drug, which is now in clinical trial phase, but it does not say how it works. It said, except that it was the target is specific to Fragile X. So
Yeah, and we don't really know, exactly what the outcome was, who did they give it to, and what changed.
Right.
I'd like to know, how could it genetically change them? And
I don't know.
I don't know either. But of course, we have ongoing reporting about Avante, the 14-year-old, who it's almost 4 weeks later that Avante is still missing, went missing from his school in New York, had a one-on-one aide. To this moment, we're still not clear about how that could happen, but it was the fourth time that it happened, and we're hearing that the police are beginning to lose hope, which is a devastating event.
And the mother is saying, Vanessa Fontaine said at a press conference on Friday that her thoughts are her son is still out there. I want everyone to continue to help me search for my son. He is not gone. And as we know that dogs did track him to the subway because of his fascination with trains.
Yes.
They have video of him leaving the school. And she was on Piers Morgan Live last Friday, said she believed he was alive. Someone may be holding him. My message to my son is that I love him. We're going to find him. You'll come home to your family. And for anyone who has him, please be kind and let him go. There is a $77,500 reward for his safe return, and he was wearing a gray striped shirt, black jeans, and sneakers. He's 5'3" and weighs 125 pounds.
And the police commissioner, Ray Kelly, had reported, his quote was, "Unfortunately, we are not hopeful that we are going to find this young man alive, but we are continuing our search." And I think that is what has mobilized a lot of people, refreshed people. I was talking to somebody earlier this week about when someone goes missing and all the things that can be done, and they were saying that often that the police will give up, but that it really becomes volunteer groups that continue to put the pressure on and make sure that everything, no stone is left unturned. So if you have time and you live in the New York City area, I'm sure they would appreciate some volunteers at this point to keep momentum moving.
And do you know, have they brought, I know they were requesting psychics be brought in. Has that happened?
I know that they had been consulting with psychics, so I don't know if they've had any result from it that has led to anything, but I know that the police were saying, we're absolutely going to go that route and see what can be discovered.
Okay.
So devastating that he is still missing.
Yes.
And then in other sad news, a death of a boy in D.C. with autism who wandered away, and it has been ruled accidental. The death of 7-year-old, he wandered away from his D.C. home in July. It's been ruled accidental. Michael Kingsbury, who had autism, had been playing in the backyard of his family's home July 7th, and then he disappeared. A day and a half later, his body was discovered in a car parked 40 yards away on West Virginia Avenue. The temperatures had reached the mid-80s for several days, and experts say that the interior of the car likely exceeded 120 degrees. A very sad story. At least 6 searchers, both civilians and police officers, had looked in but had not opened the car while looking for the boy. And the quote from Michael's uncle, Michael L. Travers, was, "The blessing for us is to have known Michael Kingsbury. Michael was in this world but wasn't of this world. Michael didn't see the things we saw. He didn't react to the things that we reacted to. He accepted them of faith and love, and he smiled." The medical examiner reviewed all of the files in the body and saw no signs of trauma. They couldn't give the approximate time of death, but the police said that that there was obvious decomposition of the body, and so at this time they've ruled it accidental. That wasn't, that he must have wandered into the car.
Right.
Devastating. I'm a little disheartened because we've seen this happen on several occasions, that children will get into a trunk or a refrigerator or something like that and get trapped. So I hope that these searchers can be trained in a way that we make sure that we look in all those places.
Right.
Devastating.
Yeah. This wandering and eloping has certainly become an epidemic of the epidemic.
Yes.
And I wonder how many now lives have been lost. I wonder if there's any studies that show how many of our children have wandered, bolted, eloped, and ended up at the bottom of a pool, a lake, in a car. It's just tragic. And Wyatt was a eloper and a bolter, and we had many close calls. I thank God that we taught him through his ABA program and through social studies, stories primarily, not to do that. But it took several years to teach him. He would disappear in a crowd like that from me, and it is a terrifying moment.
And we should say that if your child is an eloper, that there is help and there is hope. There are experts who can help you to get your child to appropriately ask when they want to run to something, to put a replacement behavior in. And in fact, Act Today gives grants.
Yes, we do, for fencing. If you live in a community where there are tracking devices available through your sheriff's department, police department, we can fund those. And we can also fund therapy to teach your child specific targeted therapy, which I think is the key.
Yes.
Because we can put bolts on doors, we can put tracking devices, but that's really, the tracking devices are when it's too late, when they're already gone.
Right.
So teaching your children not to do this is a very important component.
Of paramount importance. Okay, should we take a break, or you want to do one more story, or should we take a break and come back with Kerry?
Well, there's one more good thing in the news that in Maine, I think it's at the bottom of my pile here. You have it there, that they're opening up a center.
Yes, the new institute is opening in the University of Maine for educators and others who work with children with autism and post-secondary students seeking to follow that path. The Maine Autism Institute for Education and Research will open January 1 at the UMaine campus in Orono. Maine families will also be able to get services and resources through the Institute to help them better understand autism. The Institute plans to host professional development workshops and webinars, create roadmaps of the various services available from birth to adulthood, and provide family-to-family mentoring. How much is that needed?
Really great.
And it's a partnership of the Maine Department of Education and the university's College of Education and Human Development. What a great model. Maybe we can be replicated in cities all around the United States and really around the world.
Right. So if you're in Maine, the Maine Autism Institute for Education and Research opening January 1st at the University of Maine campus in Orono.
So there we go.
Okay.
We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. When we do, we're going to be joined via Skype by Kerry Magro. He's going to talk to us about this new
see us today.
yeah, he will. I don't know if he will be able to see us or not. But in any case, a remarkable young man on the spectrum, diagnosed at the age of 4, and is now a national speaker. So can't wait to hear from Kerry. Stick with us.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. Act Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT,
What did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting two battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, you know, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle. Without that, they wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Mark it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get two kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear ACT Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. You know, we underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
We're back. And we're going to have Kerry join us a little bit later on in the program while we work out some things on his end. But a perfect opportunity for Lucy and I to talk a little bit about Halloween and some stuff going on with our kids. I had told our Lucy, Nancy, last week when we were off the air that I'd gone through a very interesting thing with my son. Each year, as a lot of PTAs do, my son's school has something called a Reflections program. It's a national program for the arts. The PTA sponsors it. The kids have all these different categories that they can submit artwork. It can be, they can dance, they can submit a film, they can draw a picture, they can take a photography picture, and they compete first at the school, and then it goes to the district, and then it goes to the state, and then it goes national. And every year we have pretty much coerced and forced our son to participate since he was in kindergarten.
Right.
And sometimes it's been like a piece, I'm not kidding you, a piece of red on a magic marker on a piece of paper, and we turn it in and go, here is Jem's work.
Right.
And we've just made him do it. And each year he gets a little certificate saying you participated, right? And I have always felt that that was important. And sometimes he said, I don't want to, when he had words to say it. And we've made him do it each time. So it was time to do it again this year. And last year, for the first time, they added a category, because usually they do it by grade level, that it's, you know, K through second grade, and then it's 3 through 5, and then it's 6th through 11th grade, whatever it is. And, you know, there was a little part of me that was like, you know, yeah, but I see the work that the other kids do, and they can color within the lines, and my child was never about that. It was a little frustrating. Last year they added another category that's special needs, but it has no age on it. It's just all the special needs compete, and they had said at the school, so you have your choice. He can either compete with his age group, or he can compete in special needs. I chose for him last year and chose to just put him in the regular group, right? Didn't really matter. This year he did a watercolor that was quite beautiful. I mean, it was really gorgeous, and so there we were, and we were filling out the form for it, and I explained it to him this year. I said, okay, here's the choice. Because you have an autism diagnosis, if you would like, we can check off the special needs category, or you can be in the 3 to 5. And I think all he heard in the moment was special. And he thinks special is special, right? Because we should. And he said, oh, I want to be special.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, just so that you understand that, you know, that's for kids who have things that are going on that make things tougher for them. That's what this means. They have challenges, and you will only be in that category because you have autism. And then he said, oh, I don't want to be different.
Okay, so he wants to be special but not different.
Right. And
makes sense.
So we had this whole discussion about it, and I had admitted to you that when he said he wanted to be in the special needs category, I feel guilty saying I felt disappointed.
Because you wanted him to be
I wanted him to say, no, I don't need that, right?
Yeah,
and then when I said, okay, you know, just so you know that it means that, you know, it's because you have autism that you're in this category, and he said, oh no, I don't want to be, then I felt bad about that too. I felt like I'd handled the whole thing really badly. Ultimately, he did decide to just go in the 3rd through 5th grader, not the special needs category, and he won. He won first place.
First place.
For his school. So now he'll go to district, but it was one of those amazing sorts of things.
That's so great.
And I was a little bummed because every year we've gone, they have an assembly and they give the little certificates out to the kids, and I videotaped him getting the participant. Nobody told us this time, so I wasn't there. He won first place, and I have no video of. I didn't get to see his face. I didn't get to see the kids cheer for him.
But you can't be there for everything.
Oh, really? Because I try.
I know you do.
But no, and I went, well, I just have to let that go. He got this ribbon, and he got a certificate to go to an art place to do the Paint a Dream thing for $50, and he gets to go to district, and he was like, yeah, do I get my picture back? Because he says, I want to hang it on the wall.
Right.
And I said, eventually, when at the level at which you lose, you get your picture back. But it was a very interesting thing to me. My disappointment and my guilt and my inability to handle it well was very interesting.
Well, you know, I always look at those things too. There's another child on the spectrum at Wyatt's school. At this school they allow one child. It's a very small private school run by the Adventist Church, and they allow one child per grade with autism, but the 5th and 6th are combined. And I've known this one little boy since he was 3, and when he was 3 and a half, 4, and when he was diagnosed, at that age he was much lower functioning than Wyatt, and now I'm always like, well, why is Robbie singing so well on stage in the concerts? Why is Robbie playing soccer? Why is Robbie playing football? And why is it my son?
Right, because that's the thing. It's not that you would take that away from that child, but it's the comparison.
I just want I'm like, well, if Robbie can do that, what's the difference in his program and, you know, Wyatt's program? But what I've come to realize is that they're different children, and even if they were neurotypical, Wyatt's not necessarily a child that's going to get up and sing every word of the song on stage. He's always going to be the kid that kind of zones out and does his own thing. You know, and
but your son is a beautiful artist.
He's an
your son is the
amazing
real artist.
He's a real artist. When you ask him what do you want to be when you grow up, and people say, do you want to be an artist? He goes, I already am an artist. And he's written books. You know, he's written some children's books, and his current thing is painting egg cartons and these giant packing cartons with beautiful colors, and then we laminate them and make trays, and we're going to make a series of mobiles. They're beautiful. And he works on them like for weeks until, and I'll say, don't you want to turn that over now and do the other side? Nope, I want to put cerulean blue here.
There we go.
You know, so he's very into art. That's his thing. It calms him. So, you know, I have a real interest, obviously, now. Wyatt's going to be 12 this month. And now it's focusing in on what are the talents, what are the things that we can start to build on. You know, I'm really interested in him getting involved maybe in the inclusion films program, learning animation, those kinds of things, because he hasn't really translated the love of art over. But, all right, so back to Halloween, though, for a minute, since we're in Halloween. Wyatt wanted to be a conductor, which I kind of said, well, you know, let's maybe try to do something else.
Like a music conductor or a train conductor?
Train, because
okay,
you know, the Thomas Love, which is still there. And we've gotten rid of all the Thomas books and most of the Thomas trains, and but he still loves those Thomas stories. He'll look them up on his iPad whenever he can. And so I said, well, you know, think of some other costumes. So he said, well, I want to be a farmer. So I thought, you know, okay, farmer's good. So we went out and got overalls overalls and a plaid shirt and, a farmer's straw hat. Right. And then I found this beard at the costume shop when I went to get this wig, and I put it on him, and Shannon, he is right out of Duck Dynasty. He looks like what he looks like is a polygamous farmer. Like, those guys that in the Mormon, Once when I went to a hiking spa up in Utah, St. George, the guides at this hiking spa took me to buy film. And before we went into the Walmart, they said, well, we're going to check out the polygs when we get in there. And I'm like, what's a polyg? And they're like, it's the polygamous. And I'm like, well, how do you know the polygamous? They said, well, they're the guys in the overalls. They have beards down to here. And you'll see like 10 women following them. You'll think they're daughters. But in fact, you'll see grandmothers, middle-aged women, and young women. They're all wives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you're kind of channeling Barbara Bush a little for me.
Is that one? I was saying that it was a little bit like heavy Hillary Clinton at one point, but no, you're right. It's more Barbara Bush.
It's a little Barbara.
That's
with
who
the
I am.
pearls.
That's why you have to stick with me. People will think that I'm Barbara Bush. I'm not.
Not if you go, Lucy.
Lucy.
And I keep going.
There we go.
It's just the expressions.
Well, Jem, of course, decides who he wants to be for Halloween pretty much a year in advance.
Okay.
And then he sticks to it like glue.
Right.
Like most kids change their minds, and you think, oh, he knows, he has it lined up. This is who I want to be, and so he's a mad scientist this year.
Oh,
so,
very good one.
That has a little bit of gore to it, because we're at that age where he's got to have a little bit of gore going to it. So he has this piece. Last year he was the Terminator, and he wanted to have the blood and the whole thing on the face, but it looks like he's blown the top of his head off, so his brain is exposed.
Oh, okay.
And on his lab coat there's a little bit of blood. We're at that age.
You're at that age. Why it's not yet into that bloody stuff.
Hang on to it.
Okay.
Because I don't welcome it.
I've often said that Halloween, as much as I love this and doing this, and it's fun this year, especially being here today in costume, it was always my worst nightmare as an autism mom. Yeah. And I remember when Wyatt was 3, right before he was diagnosed, I remember that Halloween, because we went to a friend's house, and all the kids, I didn't have him on gluten-free, dairy-free. He was eating chocolate. He was eating everything. And I remember one of the worst tantrums ever when I got him back into the car. He didn't want to leave the house where we were. They'd been trick-or-treating in the party. I literally struggled to get him buckled into that seatbelt. He screamed the whole way home, and it was like an hour-and-a-half tantrum, not sleeping, and then I think 4 was probably not much better. So it does take some planning when you're an autism mom to have a happy Halloween experience. And even the GFCF candy, if you're on that, still has the food dye, still has the sugar.
Yeah.
So it might be, for me, what works for me is to make sure he eats a lot of protein that day, also to give him enzymes, digestive enzymes, and drink a lot of water, and obviously really monitor the candy. And we make GFCF cookies. We made them last night, so he can have those. I go and get the organic jelly beans with no food colors and the lollipops. So I try to do all of those things to ward off a meltdown and a bad experience.
We don't do the sugar at all. We don't do any of the candy. Yep. We got to go to break because we've got Kerry. So let's do that. Let's take a break, and we'll come back with Kerry Magro.
Okay, great.
Because we have him. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, Find specific activities to assess and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We have with us our very special guest joining us via Skype is Kerry Magro. Kerry is a remarkable young man who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 4. Kerry recently graduated with his master's degree in strategic communications from Seton Hall University. That pretty much could be the end of the sentence, but there's so much more to say. Kerry, we welcome you to the show.
Thank you, guys. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, and congratulations on finishing school and all of these accomplishments. And Kerry, we're here to talk about your book, Defining Autism from the Heart, which the subtitle is From Nonverbal to National Speaker. That's quite a journey.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey. It really started when I was in college, the aspect of just wanting to write a book, because that was one of the first times that really came out as a self-advocate. When I was in high school, when I was in grammar school, I was always in a multi-handicapped classroom. So everyone just knew that they were special. They knew that they had a disability, but everyone just saw each other as equals. And once I got to college, I really wanted to really make a change, because disabilities at Seton Hall, we were only about 1% of our population. So I wanted to write a book to kind of just talk about some of the things I went through in my life, not only college, but my life, and just try to spread awareness for autism and acceptance for autism too.
It's an amazing book. Kerry, how can our viewers get a copy of this book?
The book is currently on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. If you search Defining Autism from the Heart on Amazon, it should be the first thing that pops up, and it's currently available in paperback along with Kindle.
Okay, excellent. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back, Kerry, and we want to learn a little bit more specifically about your journey from the age of diagnosis on, and some of the pivotal moments in your life's journey that have made you into the remarkable young man you are today. So we'll be back after a brief break.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
We are back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, or Lucy and Ethel, as it may be. And we are with a very special guest, Kerry Magro, and we're talking with Kerry about his book, Defining Autism from the Heart, a journey from nonverbal to national speaker, and also about hacking autism, which is his project.
Yes, because he's graduated with his master's degree in strategic communications and now is working for Autism Speaks, heading up the Hacking Autism Hackathon. So we're going to talk with him about that in a little bit. Emily, do we have him? He looks frozen to us.
He's there.
All right.
There you go. Hi,
okay.
Kerry.
You were frozen a second ago.
Kerry, I just would like to go back for a lot of our viewers who are parents of children on the spectrum, and you did have some many of the challenges that go along with an autism diagnosis, and you were nonverbal. Until you were 2.5, you had severe communication and verbal delays in receptive and expressive language. You had auditory processing issues, sensory integration dysfunction. You had dyspraxia, retention issues, some stimming, twirling. You yourself write about all of this. Maladaptive behavior, delay, and echolalia, repeating things, which did hold you back, as you admit yourself. And you said one day you'd be fine, the next day you'd be kicking, screaming, just plain lashing out. This is where the job you talk about really kicks in. What kinds of interventions did you and your family do?
I kind of lost the sound for a quick second, but I believe the question was just how I basically was able to get through this.
Yes.
Family support?
Yes.
Awesome. Great. What I really am thankful for in my life was the support of just my loving parents, my mom and dad. Without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. Specifically because when I was diagnosed, autism was still very, very unknown. The numbers of autism back when I was diagnosed in 1992 were like 1 in every 1,000. And today it's 1 in 88. And back then there weren't that many awareness campaigns. All my parents really heard about autism in more severe cases was that people with autism.
Well, it appears that we've frozen a little bit, Kerry, so we'll hope that he can come back.
Yeah, let's hope he's not frozen.
For long.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, Kerry.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, and he's frozen again.
We keep having a little bit of a freezing problem here.
Skype is...
Now we're hearing you. You're
it's
back
the
and
gremlins
forth.
of Halloween.
Okay.
They're eating Skype. So, Kerry, we're losing you a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you there now?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Okay, great. Keep going.
Yeah, no, I was able to get a lot of therapy growing up, specifically occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy. And that really helped me growing up. And I had that from about 4 to 18. And that's where I saw most of the development, because my parents were a big believer in trial and error. And once they found those therapies, they kind of stuck with me. And that's really when I was able to make the most development in my life.
Well, that's interesting because, you know, we hear so much about early intervention, but Kerry, your story really tells us that continual interventions, continual treatment is very important, and not to give up. You may have a child who is plateaued at the age of 12, but that means to keep going. Yes. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, as we get old, I tell everyone that early intervention is the big key, just to getting the best life possible for your loved ones, and to make sure they live the best lives possible throughout their lifespans. And I think one of the big things I usually tell people, though, is that it doesn't just stop at early.
We continue to have technical issues here, but we are getting them.
You have to keep pushing every single day. I mean, autism can be a marathon. Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
We got you.
Autism is a marathon, not a sprint, right, Kerry?
Exactly, yes. And you have to take it one day at a time, but as long as you just make sure to focus on the therapies you need, the treatments that you need, and to just live each and every day with the positivity and knowing that you're trying to do the best by you. I mean, that's really anyone could ask for, just out of anyone in general.
Well, Kerry, you're remarkable. It pretty much took a master's degree in strategic communications for you to be able to do this interview, and we appreciate that despite the technology issues that you have forged ahead. I think because we're out of time, we're going to wait and talk to you about hacking autism on another day.
Okay.
But we want to encourage people to get your book.
Get the book, Defining Autism from the Heart. And from nonverbal to national speaker, this is a wonderful, wonderful journey that will inspire you as a parent, that you can share with your child, and Kerry being a great role model. And Kerry, we'll have you back to talk about the Hacking Autism project specifically.
Great, we'll love to do that.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Kerry.
Thank you, Kerry.
Take
Thank
care.
You guys. Great costumes, by the way.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
What a lovely young man. And when you think about how flustered most people would be as we're having, Skype issues, but remarkable, so well-spoken. If you have the opportunity to hear him speak, Kerry also has a charity that he runs that does good acts as well. And he is now heading up the hackathon.
Great. And I was trying to find his mother and father's name because he did mention them in the book. And I'll find it. But I think we have to give a big shout out to the parents because they are really behind this young man's remarkable abilities. So.
It's just our message for today about what difference one person can make. And as a parent, a lot of times you're that one person.
Yes.
So make that difference.
Yes.
Really remarkable. Before I forget, we had people who wrote in. Somebody wrote in with a question about eye contact, which we will cover on Friday. So stay tuned on Friday for that. And some people were complimenting our costumes, saying, OMG, so funny, that we look awesome. Thank you. We appreciate it. Someone else who said, you guys are hilarious.
I'm going to be making Lucy faces all day.
I love it. We're going to take pictures afterwards. Somebody wrote, you guys are hilarious. The Halloween surprise is fantastic. Can't stop laughing. Well, we live for that because, autism can be a very serious subject. And if we can't laugh from time to time,
we gotta
it's going to get ugly.
We gotta laugh. That's very important every day.
I did want to finish my thought. I've said this before on the show that we don't do the Halloween candy at all.
Oh, yes.
We have the Lego fairy. And you can make whatever fairy you want. I mean, he's a little bit old and it's a little bit of a joke now, but when he was little, he understood, I don't get to eat what the other kids do, but I get something better, Legos. So he would get as much candy as he could get. We put it in a special bowl on the middle of the dining room table, and the Lego fairy comes in the middle of the night, takes the candy because the Lego fairy likes candy, and leaves a Lego in its place.
Wonderful.
And I know people whose kids can eat candy but have done this, and the Disney Princess Fairy brings something. You don't have to give in, and we had said earlier this week on the show, decide what the proper amount for your family is and then stick to that firm and make the rest of it go away. It makes it much easier. Otherwise, your entire weekend, we know, will be, if I let my child have candy with artificial colors and sugar, it would be kiss my weekend goodbye.
Yeah, you're talking days and days to get them out of their system.
Yeah, and you don't have to do it. You don't have to give into that. And My son loves it. He goes to school and people give candy for different occasions, and the room mother is always saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and he says, "Why? I'm going to get a toy for this."
Really good.
Yeah, so he's thrilled.
What a great reward system.
And he doesn't mind at all.
Okay.
So, put in place what works for you. Absolutely.
Yes.
And we'll look forward to talking next week about how Halloween went.
Yes.
Are you guys going to trick or treat?
We are going to trick or treat. I think I had convinced my husband Reed that he has to be Ricky.
Of course.
I mean, I guess he'll have to get, since he's bald, we'll have to go out and get a black slick back wig and, just a suit or something. Wasn't Ricky always in a suit at the club playing the bongos?
Yeah, the double-breasted.
Yeah, the double-breasted.
Well, I tried to talk my husband into being Fred, but the idea of pulling his pants up to his chest did not appeal
when I was
to him.
watching Lucy episodes last night, I love Fred and Ethel too.
They're wonderful.
They're all wonderful. They
I
really were.
loved Lucy. You had to. It's the name of the show. But I have to say, I was always a big Vivian Vance fan. So this was a treat for me to be your Ethel.
She was sort of an unsung, gem there.
Hilarious.
But
so much so that they kept her in each incarnation that they made of I Love Lucy.
Of the show. Yeah, I even saw episodes where they were looking rather old with a lot of makeup piled on.
And with the 60s thing.
With the 60s thing going on. Yeah, yeah.
We can go there in a couple of years.
Okay.
We'll be the older version of Lucy and Ethel. I'm already working.
So we'll be posting some pictures online where we're going to be in our full costume, so you can see. I even, I got the shoes and everything vintage, and we'll be making some fun facial expressions.
Absolutely. Now, we also have one of Kerry's books to give away. We've been talking about it. Here's what I want to propose to everybody. Send a Halloween picture of your family, post it to our Facebook, and then we'll pick randomly from the people who send pictures. So send a picture of what you guys are doing for Halloween to our Facebook, and someone will win a copy of Kerry's book. How's that sound?
That sounds great
like a
to
good thing?
me.
Yes, absolutely thrilling. So very exciting. In a couple of weeks, we have a very special guest that's coming on the show, Thor Kilsone, who's going to be with us on the 13th of November.
Right.
Very exciting. He is the Danish gentleman who is making it possible to train individuals on the spectrum to be job ready.
Yes, primarily in the computer business.
Yes.
He is an entrepreneur who is stirring up the world with his work of employing young people and showing that they are not only good employees, but better employees.
Yeah, that's a really exciting. We're so thrilled that we're going to have him.
Yes.
That's on November 13th, so you want to stick with us for that.
Good.
I thank you for being Lucy. We're out of time.
Ethel, thank you.
Lucy!
Oh,
all right. Give your kiddos a hug. We'll be back on Friday. No show tomorrow, back on Friday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.